I was holding my missing tool and my wife's phone when the wall did the talking. She laughed, then whispered, "Not here. He's literally on the other side." I'm Nate. 37. Born and raised in Indiana, but we ended up in a bland suburb outside Fort Wayne because it was good for the kids, and because the houses here all look like they were copied and pasted out of a catalog. I work IT support for a medical billing company. Remote. Headset on half my life. My wife, Carly, is a dental hygienist. She's the kind of person who can make small talk with a brick wall and somehow the brick wall leaves feeling understood. We've been married 11 years. 2 kids, Owen, 9, who's basically a golden retriever in a boy's body, and Emma, 6, who can stare right through you like a tiny FBI agent when you're lying. We weren't perfect, but we were normal. The kind of normal that felt safe. We fought about dumb stuff, money, whose turn it was to do bedtime, my tendency to leave tools, temporarily, on the counter. We made up. We functioned. We laughed. We had traditions. Friday pizza. Sunday laundry. The little routine that makes you believe you're building something that'll hold. Then we bought this place. A duplex. Side by side. Shared wall running the full length of the house, kitchen to living room to the upstairs bedrooms. When the realtor called it a twin home, I pictured something cozy and private. It isn't private. You hear things. You hear footsteps. Cabinets. Someone's TV through the studs. If the neighbor slams a drawer, you feel it in your own teeth. Our neighbor's name is Derek. Early 40s. Divorced. No kids. Always had that, I'm just a friendly guy, vibe, smile a little too quick, eyes a little too comfortable. He moved in about a month after us, and from the start he acted like we were all in this together. Like the shared wall made us family. He brought over a plate of cookies the first weekend. Just wanted to introduce myself, he said, leaning in the doorway like he'd been practicing it in the mirror. You guys need anything, tools, salt, whatever, just knock. Carly smiled. She's polite. She's warm. She does that thing where she makes people feel like they matter, even if she just met them. Thanks, she said. We're still unpacking. We'll probably take you up on that. I remember thinking, great. A neighbor who's handy. This could be nice. I didn't understand how fast nice becomes familiar. And how fast familiar becomes entitled. At first it was harmless. Tiny little neighbor stuff. Derek knocked on a Tuesday night. Hey, man, do you have a Phillips head? I just realized my IKEA shelf came with, like, emotional instructions instead of real ones. I handed him a screwdriver. He joked. I laughed. He left. Then Carly knocked on his door one afternoon while I was on a Zoom call. When she came back, she raised the salt shaker like a trophy. He had salt, she whispered dramatically, like she'd pulled off a heist. Then it was sugar. Then it was, do you have a lemon? Then it was, he has a ladder we can borrow. Then it was, I'm just running this casserole dish back. Always small. Always ordinary. Always so minor you'd feel stupid questioning it. But over a few months, the visits multiplied like rabbits. And the tone changed. Carly started saying Derek's name more. Like he was part of our household vocabulary. Derek said the HOA's being annoying again. Derek thinks our tree might be diseased. Derek offered to fix the loose step on the porch. Sometimes I'd look up from my laptop and realize she'd been texting. Smiling at her phone in that soft, private way people do when the message isn't about grocery lists. I told myself I was being paranoid. We were married. We had kids. We had a life. People didn't just blow that up because of a neighbor with a friendly smile. But then the little signs started stacking. Like pennies in a jar. One at a time. They don't feel like anything, but eventually you pick up the jar and realize it's heavier than it should be. She started wearing perfume to take the trash out. Not heavy perfume. Not date night perfume. Just enough. She started fixing her hair before going next door, for 2 seconds. She started locking her phone, face down, even when it was just sitting on the counter. And she got lighter. Not happier in our house. Lighter around him. She'd come back with that faint, breathy energy, like someone had just told her she was still interesting, still wanted, still seen. Meanwhile with me, she was tired. She was short. She was, "Can we not do this right now, Nate?" The scariest part wasn't the anger. It was the way I started doubting my own instincts. Because suspicion makes you feel ugly. It makes you feel like you're peeking through blinds, like you're the creep, like you're the one with the problem. So you swallow it. You tell yourself you're grateful. You tell yourself you're lucky she's friendly and you're lucky you have a neighbor who can help fix things. And then one night, I heard something through the wall that didn't fit in the lucky category at all. It was a Thursday. Kids in bed. Carly said she was going to return Derek's drill, the drill that had somehow been in our garage for 3 days even though she just borrowed it for a quick thing. I was in the kitchen loading the dishwasher. I heard our front door close. And then, through the wall, I heard the soft creak of Derek's back door. The little metallic click of a lock turning. A muffled voice, hers. And then another voice, his. And then, silence. Not neighborly silence. Not hi thanks bye silence. The kind of silence that feels occupied. I stood there with a plate in my hand, not moving, like my body didn't want to fully commit to what my brain was trying to tell it. Then I heard a laugh. Her laugh. Not her polite laugh. Her real laugh. The one I used to pull out of her when we were dating and she thought I was the funniest person alive. That laugh was supposed to belong to us. I put the plate down. I stared at the wall. I listened like a man trying to hear his own future cracking. The next day I tried to act normal. That's the thing nobody tells you. When suspicion moves in, it doesn't show up with a suitcase and announce itself. It just sits down on your couch and starts watching your life with you. Carly kissed me goodbye in the morning, quick, distracted. She was already in her scrubs, already half in her day. "Love you," she said. I said it back, because what else do you do? You don't have proof. You have a laugh through a wall and a feeling that your stomach is trying to fold itself inside out. After she left, I worked. Took calls. Reset passwords. Pretended I wasn't picturing the way she'd laughed in Derek's kitchen. At lunch, I went to the garage because I needed something to do with my hands. I started reorganizing my tools, like I was a dad in a commercial trying to find peace through socket sets. That's when I noticed it. My half-inch drive socket wrench was gone. Not misplaced. Not, maybe it rolled under the workbench. Gone. And I knew, I hadn't loaned it out. I walked back inside, wiping grease on my jeans, trying to stay casual as I asked myself the question I didn't want to ask. Would she go next door without telling me and grab my tools? The answer should have been no. But the fact that I couldn't confidently say no made my throat tighten. I checked the usual spots. Under the sink. Junk drawer. The shelf by the laundry room where Carly sometimes dropped stuff. Nothing. Then I did something I'm not proud of. I checked our Ring camera history. Not because I thought she was cheating. I told myself it was because I wanted to see if Derek came over and borrowed it. Like we were still in the realm of normal. And there it was. Yesterday, 2:17 p.m. Our front door opened. Carly stepped out. She looked around, quick, subtle. Not like a person checking the weather. Like a person checking for witnesses. Then she walked straight to Derek's door with something in her hand, my bright orange tool bag. She didn't knock. She just went in. And the door closed behind her. I watched it again. And again. It wasn't the fact she went next door. It was how. No knock. No pause. No, hey, I'm coming over. Just entry. Like she belonged there. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. I scrubbed through the footage until she came back out. 2:49 p.m. 32 minutes. The orange tool bag wasn't with her. She smiled as she walked back inside our house, like she'd just had a nice little break in her day. And I sat there, staring at the time stamp, because suddenly every quick salt run had a question mark attached to it. I tried to rationalize. Maybe Derek needed help fixing something. Maybe she was being nice. Maybe she didn't want to bother me while I was working. But then I remembered the laugh. The occupied silence. The perfume. The way she started taking her phone into the shower. The way she'd been distant with me but animated about him. And my brain did what brains do when they finally stop protecting you. It connected the dots. I didn't confront her right away. Not because I was being strategic. Because I was scared. Confrontation makes it real. As long as you stay quiet, you can pretend you're still in the old life where your wife is your wife and your neighbor is just a neighbor. So I waited. I watched. And because our wall was so thin, the house gave me evidence whether I wanted it or not. Over the next week, I started hearing patterns. Derek's back door would open around the same time, mid-afternoon, when the kids were at school and I was either on calls or in the basement office. Carly would run out for something. Sometimes it was, I'm going to grab the mail. Sometimes it was, I forgot I needed flour. And then, through the wall, muffled voices. A quiet laugh. Sometimes a soft thump, like a cabinet shutting, or something else I didn't want to name. Once, I heard Derek say something that stopped my heart. Just be careful. He's home. And Carly's voice, low, urgent. I know. I know. Just, give me a second. I sat in my chair with my headset on, staring at my computer screen while a customer complained about their printer, and I felt like I was watching my life happen from underwater. It wasn't just suspicion anymore. It was a secret happening in real time. Behind the wall. The worst part was how normal Carly stayed with me. She'd come back into our kitchen and talk about dinner plans like she hadn't just been whispering on the other side of my wall. One night she made spaghetti and hummed along to some stupid pop song while she stirred the sauce. I watched her hands. The same hands that helped our daughter tie her shoes. And I thought, how can someone lie this smoothly? Then came the day I got the piece I couldn't explain away. It was a Monday. Carly's day off. The kids were at school. I was working from home. She came into my office doorway around 10:30 with that fake casual tone. Hey, babe, do you have, that little flathead? The tiny one? I didn't look up right away. I forced my voice to stay even. In the garage, I said. Top drawer. Okay. Thanks. I heard her footsteps go down the hall. The door to the garage. Then, the front door. Not the garage door. The front door. That little detail, like a pin dropping in a quiet room, made my chest tighten. I minimized my work window, opened the camera app, pulled up the front door feed. I watched Carly walk across the tiny strip of driveway between our doors. She had nothing in her hands. No tool. No salt. Just her phone. She didn't knock. She went right in. I stared at the screen like if I stared hard enough, the pixels would rearrange into something less painful. I waited. I tried to keep working. I really did. But my eyes kept flicking to the time stamp like it was counting down to something. At 10:57, I heard it. Not on the camera. Through the wall. A soft, breathy sound that I recognized so intimately it made me feel sick. A moan. Muffled, but unmistakable. I sat up straight, my whole body going cold. Then Derek's voice. Low. Close. And Carly, my Carly, laughed like she was trying to stay quiet. Stop, she whispered. Stop, stop, he's home. Derek, he's always home. Carly, not like this. Then a thump. A creak. A little squeak of bed springs, like cheap furniture being asked to carry a secret. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't swallow. My hands were hovering over my keyboard like I'd forgotten what hands were for. My wife was having an affair. Not in some hotel 3 towns away. Not on a work trip. Not in a car. In the house next to ours. On the other side of the wall where my kids' bedrooms shared studs with Derek's guest room. I don't remember standing up, but I did. I don't remember walking out of my office, but suddenly I was in the hallway. I was moving quiet, like the house had turned into a hunting ground. I went upstairs. Slow. Silent. Our bedroom window faces Derek's backyard at an angle. Not a clear view, but enough to see his sliding door if you lean. I leaned. The blinds pressed against my forehead. And there it was. Derek's kitchen. The light on. A silhouette moving past the window. Then another silhouette. Close. Too close. And I saw her. Not fully, just a flash of her hair, the curve of her shoulder, the familiar way she tucked hair behind her ear. The same gesture she does when she's nervous. Except she wasn't nervous with me anymore. She was nervous about getting caught. My stomach turned so hard I thought I might throw up right there on the carpet. I stumbled back from the window, my mind racing in these broken, useless circles. Is this really happening? How long? How many times? In my face? In my house? I went back downstairs and stood in the kitchen, gripping the counter so hard my knuckles were white. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then, like the universe wanted to punish me with precision, I heard Derek's back door open. A minute later, our front door opened. Carly walked in like she'd just gone out to get the mail. She had a faint pink flush on her cheeks. Her hair slightly messy. Her breathing a little too quick. She smiled at me. Hey, she said brightly. I ran next door to ask if Derek had any extra mulch. He does. Mulch. I stared at her. Mulch. Behind her, the wall was just a wall. Quiet. Innocent. Like it hadn't been the witness to my whole life cracking. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her phone and throw it against the wall until it shattered into truth. Instead, I heard myself say, in a voice that didn't sound like mine. Cool. She walked past me toward the sink, turned on the faucet, started washing her hands like she needed to rinse something off. I watched the water run over her fingers. And I realized she wasn't just lying. She was doing it with ease. Like practice. Everything okay? She asked, glancing back, like she could feel my eyes on her. Yeah, I said. Just, busy. She nodded, like that made sense. Then she grabbed her phone off the counter, fast, automatic, and walked out of the room. I waited until I heard her footsteps upstairs. Then I did another thing I'm not proud of. I picked up the iPad the kids use for games. Because Carly's Apple ID was still logged in. I went into messages. My fingers hovered over the screen like it was hot. There were a dozen threads. Group chats with friends. Her sister. A parent-teacher chat. And then a contact saved as. My throat tightened. I tapped it. At first it looked harmless, until I scrolled back past the surface level, normal, stuff. Because the top messages were clean. Like someone had wiped a counter and left a pretty dish towel out to make you think the kitchen was always tidy. But further down, past the point where she apparently stopped deleting as aggressively, I found it. A photo. Not explicit, thank God, but unmistakable. Derek's hand on her thigh. A caption from Carly. "You're going to get me caught." Derek's reply. "I like when you're scared." My vision tunneled. I scrolled more. Carly, Salt Run. Derek, bring the little black dress. Carly, he's right there. Derek, that's the point. And the one that made my whole body go numb. Carly, I feel guilty. Derek, you'll feel worse if you stop. I sat down hard in a kitchen chair like my legs quit. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't friendly. This wasn't, we got too close. This was deliberate. Repeated. Thrilling. And it was happening behind the wall while I made lunches and paid bills and thought I was building a life. I heard Carly upstairs, moving around, maybe folding laundry like she was a decent person. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the iPad. I stared at the wall again. That stupid, thin wall. And I thought about how many times I'd been on calls with a customer complaining about a password reset while my wife was next door giving pieces of herself away. I thought about my kids' rooms. About Owen's dinosaur nightlight. About Emma's stickers on the wall. About how close Derek's bedroom was to their heads at night. I heard something again, upstairs, Carly's footsteps coming down. I wiped my face with my sleeve, because I realized at some point tears had started. I set the iPad down exactly where it had been, like if I put it back neatly, maybe the world would put my marriage back neatly too. Carly walked in, smiling like she hadn't just shredded me. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Nothing," I said too quickly. She narrowed her eyes a fraction, then softened. She stepped closer and put a hand on my shoulder like she was comforting me. Her hand felt wrong. "Hey," she said gently, "you seem off today. You okay?" I looked up at her. Really looked. And in her face I saw two versions of my wife layered on top of each other, the mother of my kids and the woman whispering, "He's home," into Derek's neck. My mouth opened. A dozen sentences crowded my throat. But the only one that came out was small and shaking. "Do you think I'm stupid?" Her smile flickered, just for a heartbeat. Then it returned, brighter. "What? Nate, what are you talking about?" And that's where part one ends, because I swear to God, in that moment, standing in our kitchen, her hand still on me, the wall beside us holding every secret like it was made for it, I realized this wasn't just about cheating. This was about how easily someone can look you in the eye and rewrite reality. And I was one sentence away from blowing the whole thing up. On the other side of the wall, I heard a faint knock. 3 quick taps. Like a code. Carly's head turned toward the wall before she could stop herself. And I knew exactly who it was. The knock came again, 3 quick taps, like a little secret handshake against the drywall. Carly froze with her hand still on my shoulder. And I watched her do something so small, so automatic, that it told me everything. Her eyes flicked to the wall first, before they flicked to me. Like the wall was the boss fight. Like I was just an obstacle. I felt my face go hot, then cold, like my body couldn't decide whether to burn this house down or disappear inside it. "Who's that?" I asked. She blinked too fast. "What?" "The knock." I pointed at the wall like a crazy person. "That." She laughed, one quick, brittle burst, and immediately regretted it. "Nate, you can literally hear everything in these houses. It's probably him knocking something over." I didn't move. I didn't blink. I kept my eyes on her. Do you think I'm stupid? I said again, but this time the words weren't shaky. They were flat. Heavy. Carly's smile started to slide off her face like it couldn't hold itself up anymore. What is going on? I reached behind me and picked up the iPad. My hands were steadier than I expected, like my body finally had a job. I turned the screen toward her. Right there in the message thread, Derek's name. Her words. Salt Run. Bring the little black dress. Her face went pale so fast it was like someone turned down a dimmer switch. For a second she just stared at it, mouth slightly open, like her brain was trying to negotiate with reality. Then she did the thing cheaters do when they're cornered. She went on the offensive. Why are you going through my stuff? She snapped, like I was the problem. Like I'd violated something sacred. Like she hadn't been violating our marriage with the neighbor behind a wall. I held the iPad tighter. Answer me. Her eyes flicked around the kitchen like she was looking for an exit. Nate, you don't understand. No, I cut in. I understand fine. I understand you've been walking next door like you live there. I understand salt and tools and mulch is a cute little cover story. I understand you're having sex with Derek while I'm 10 feet away. Her face twisted. Don't say it like that. I laughed once, no humor in it at all. How should I say it, Carly? In a way that makes you feel better. She reached for the iPad. I pulled it back. Give me that, she hissed, voice low like the kids might hear through the ceiling. Put it away. Not here. That made something in me snap. Not here. I said, louder. Not in my house. Where should we do this? Over at Derek's. Since you're comfortable there. Stop, she said sharply, like she could still manage me. Stop. You're being dramatic. I stepped closer until we were almost nose to nose. I could smell the soap on her hands. You're right, I said quietly. This is dramatic. 11 years, 2 kids, and my wife is getting off on the fact that I'm right on the other side of a wall while she sneaks around. Her eyes flashed wet. That's not. Then what is it? My voice cracked. Anger and grief fighting for the same space. Because the messages say you like being scared. They say that's the point. That's not an accident. That's not, I made a mistake. That's, a game. Carly swallowed hard. Her shoulders sagged like her body was giving up holding the lie. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she whispered. I stared at her, waiting for the part where she said she was sorry. She didn't. She just looked tired. Annoyed, almost. Like I'd interrupted her routine. How long? I asked. Her eyes went to the floor. Nate. How long? She pressed her lips together. Then, a few months. I felt my stomach drop, like the floor disappeared. A few months, I repeated. She nodded, almost imperceptible. I tried to do the math, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, every family photo suddenly feeling like a prop. While we decorated the tree. I asked, voice shaking again. While the kids made cookies. Carly flinched. Don't do that. Do what? Put it in the context of our actual life. I laughed again, sharper. Because that's where it happened, Carly. It happened in our life. 10 feet away from me. The whole time. She wiped her cheek like she was annoyed there were tears. It started as talking. I swear. I didn't even want to hear it. The origin story didn't matter. The ending mattered. And the ending was, my wife chose him. Why? I asked, and I hated how small that sounded. Like a kid asking why his favorite toy got taken away. Carly's jaw tightened. Because you weren't here. I blinked. I'm literally here all the time. I work from home. You're physically here, she snapped. But you're not here. You're always on a headset, always distracted. The kids, the bills, the routine. I felt like I was disappearing. So you slept with the neighbor, I said flatly. She flinched again like the word slapped her. He made me feel alive? I finished bitterly. Scene. Like you're still 25 and not a mom packing lunches. Carly's face crumpled for the first time, real emotion finally breaking through the defensive shell. I don't know, she whispered. It just happened. And then it didn't stop. And that's the part that haunts me. Not the beginning. The middle. The part where you have plenty of chances to stop and you don't. The part where you come home and kiss your husband and tuck your kids into bed and then sneak next door anyway. That's not a mistake. That's a choice you keep making. Another knock came through the wall, this one louder. I heard Derek's voice, muffled but recognizable. You okay over there? Carly's eyes shot to the wall again. I saw panic, real panic, flash across her face. Not panic about losing me. Panic about Derek hearing us. And something in my chest went hollow. I stepped back like she'd shoved me. You're worried about him, I said, almost to myself. Carly grabbed my arm. Nate, please, don't. I yanked my arm away. Don't what? Don't embarrass you. Don't ruin the little secret. Don't make it awkward for Derek. Her voice rose. Stop. The kids. Yeah, I said, and my voice dropped to a dangerous calm. The kids. You should have thought about them before you turned our neighbor into your boyfriend. She started crying harder now, and part of me wanted to comfort her out of habit. 11 years of reflex. But the bigger part of me wanted to walk through that wall. I took a shaky breath. Go upstairs. Close our bedroom door. Right now. Carly hesitated. Why? Because I'm going next door, I said. Her eyes widened. Nate, no, please, don't. I smiled, but it wasn't kind. Now you're scared. She grabbed my wrist. He'll call the police. Good, I said. Maybe they can explain to him how walls work. I pulled away and walked to the front door. My whole body was trembling, but it felt like momentum. Like if I stopped moving, I'd collapse. Behind me Carly said, Nate, please, don't do this. I turned back. For a second I saw her the way I used to, the woman I married. The woman who used to curl into my side on the couch and talk about baby names like we were building a future made of trust. And then I saw her eyes dart toward the wall again. And I was done. Derek opened his door before I even knocked, like he'd been waiting with his hand on the knob. He stood there barefoot in gym shorts, shirtless, like he wanted to look casual about destroying my life. His smile flickered when he saw me. Nate, he said, like we were buddies. Everything all right? I stared at him. Don't. His eyebrows lifted. Don't what? Don't say my name like we're friends. He leaned against the doorframe, still blocking the entry. Still playing the relaxed guy. Okay. What's going on? I could hear my blood in my ears. You know exactly what's going on. His eyes narrowed a fraction. Then he chuckled softly, actually chuckled. Man, he said, shaking his head like I was being unreasonable. This is between you and Carly. That sentence. I will remember it forever. Because it was the moment I realized Derek didn't see me as a person. He saw me as an inconvenience. He saw my marriage as a room he was borrowing tools from. I stepped closer. You've been sleeping with my wife. He didn't deny it. He just shrugged, slight and lazy. Look, he said, lowering his voice like he was giving me advice, I didn't come over there and start anything. She came to me. My hands curled into fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. "You're right," I said, voice shaking. "She did. And you let her. Over and over. In your house. While my kids are next door." Derek's smile twitched. "Don't make it about the kids. Don't tell me what to make it about," I snapped. His eyes hardened now. "Back off, man." I stepped even closer, and for a moment we were chest to chest with nothing but a doorframe and a decade of rage between us. "You like that I'm right there, don't you?" I said quietly. "You like that it's behind a wall." Something flashed in his face, irritation, maybe even guilt, but it passed fast. He smirked. "Not my fault your walls are thin," he said. That's when I lost it. Not in a movie way. Not in a punch him and win way. In a human way, like a man who suddenly doesn't know where to put the pain. I shoved him. He stumbled back a step, more surprised than hurt. His eyes went wide, then angry. "What the hell?" he barked. Behind me I heard Carly's voice from our doorway, "Nate. Stop." Derek straightened, rubbing his shoulder, and I saw it then, he wanted this. He wanted the drama. He wanted to be the guy who got fought over. "I'm calling the cops," Derek said, already reaching for his phone. "Call them," I said. "Tell them you've been sleeping with a married woman who lives 10 feet away. Tell them you've been using my tool bag as foreplay." Carly rushed across the tiny patch of driveway, tears streaming, hands raised like she was trying to calm down a wild animal. "Please," she begged. "Please, just come inside. Nate, please." Derek laughed. Actually laughed. "Wow," he said, looking at Carly like she was entertainment. "You really did pick a dramatic one." Carly whipped her head toward him. "Shut up." And that was the first time I saw her angry at Derek instead of protective of him. It should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because I realized she wasn't angry on my behalf. She was angry because he wasn't following the script. Derek lifted his hands. "Hey, don't bring me into your marriage problems." I stared at him. "You are my marriage problem." He rolled his eyes and started dialing anyway. Carly grabbed my arm hard. "Nate. Please. The kids." I looked at her, and my voice went low. "You don't get to use the kids as a shield now." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I took one step back from Derek's doorway, breathing hard, trying to claw my way back into control. Then I said to Derek, loud enough that the whole neighborhood could hear if they wanted. "You can have her." Carly gasped like I'd slapped her. Derek's smirk faltered. I turned and walked back to my house, Carly right behind me, pleading in a broken whisper. "Nate, don't say that. Don't, please." I didn't answer. Because if I opened my mouth again, I wasn't sure what would come out. Maybe sobs. Maybe screams. Maybe something worse. Inside our kitchen, I pulled out a chair and sat down hard, like my bones were suddenly too heavy. Carly hovered near the counter, wringing her hands like she was watching a car accident happen in slow motion. "I'm sorry," she said finally, voice small. I looked up at her. "Are you sorry you did it, or sorry I found out?" She flinched. "Nate. That's not rhetorical," I said. "Answer." Her tears fell faster. "I'm sorry I hurt you." I let out a breath that sounded like a laugh but wasn't. "That's not what I asked." She covered her face. "I don't know. I don't know how to answer that." "Yes you do," I said softly. "You just don't want to." She shook her head. "I never wanted to lose you." I stared at her for a long time, and the saddest thought in the world slid into my mind. Then why didn't you protect me? That night I didn't sleep. I laid in our bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe. Carly was beside me, turned away, crying quietly like she was the victim of a tragedy that happened to her. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message, "He's always home." I wondered how many times I'd been on a call, muted my mic, and heard laughter through the wall while my wife was next door making sure I stayed the fool. At 2 a.m., I got up and walked into Owen's room. He was sprawled across his bed, one arm thrown over his dinosaur pillow, mouth open, dead asleep. Safe. Innocent. In Emma's room, she was curled up with her stuffed bunny, hair stuck to her cheek. I stood there in the dark and felt something split inside me. Because betrayal isn't just pain. It's contamination. It takes the place you thought was safe, your home, your routines, your memories, and stains it. Suddenly my kitchen wasn't my kitchen. It was the room where Carly washed her hands after being with him. Our driveway wasn't just a driveway. It was the path she took with my tool bag like it was normal. That wall wasn't drywall anymore. It was a witness. And I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that I heard it. I heard my own marriage ending through studs and insulation. Around 4 a.m., I sat at the kitchen table and made a list, because my brain needed structure to survive. Protect the kids. Don't do anything stupid. Document everything. Lawyer. Seeing the word lawyer written in my handwriting made me nauseous. It also made me feel a tiny bit grounded. Carly came downstairs at sunrise with puffy eyes and a hoodie pulled tight around her. She looked like someone who'd been through something. I hated that my heart still reacted to her sadness. "Hate me," she whispered. I stared at my coffee mug. "I don't have the energy." She sat across from me like we were two strangers waiting for a meeting. "I'll stop," she said quickly. "I'll stop talking to him, I'll block him, whatever you want. We can fix this. Fix this." Like she'd spilled wine on the carpet. I looked up. "Why now?" Her voice cracked. "Because I don't want to lose my family." I nodded slowly. "You were willing to risk it for months." She whispered, "I didn't think." "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't think about me. You didn't think about the kids. You thought about you." She started crying again and I felt my own eyes burn, but it wasn't sympathy. It was grief. Because I realized the woman I loved had been living a separate life right beside mine, and she'd been okay with it. Over the next few days, I went through phases so fast it felt like whiplash. 1 hour I was furious, pacing the house, fantasizing about smashing Derek's window, about screaming the truth into the street so everyone would look at him the way I looked at him. The next hour I was shattered, sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot, unable to go inside because my chest hurt like I'd swallowed broken glass. I'd look at Carly and see two images, my partner, and a stranger who could lie with a straight face. And the kids were the worst part. Because they didn't know. They just felt the tension like a storm front. Owen asked at dinner, "Why are you guys being weird?" Emma asked, "Mommy, are you mad at Daddy?" And Carly would smile too brightly and say, "No, honey, we're just tired." And I wanted to scream, "Yeah, we're tired. Tired of your mom sneaking next door." But you don't get to unload adult pain onto kids. So you swallow it. And it sits in your stomach like acid. One afternoon, I heard a knock through the wall again. Softer this time. Like Derek was testing the waters. Carly jumped like she'd been burned. I watched her face, fear, guilt, reflex, and realized something ugly. Even if she stopped, Derek wasn't going to disappear. He was still there. 10 feet away. Forever, as long as we lived here. And the thought of raising my kids with Derek's breathing on the other side of their bedrooms made me feel insane. That night I told Carly, "I can't stay here." Her eyes filled. "In this house. In this marriage," I said. She went still. Then she started bargaining. Therapy. Church. Date nights. Tracking apps. Passwords. Anything that didn't involve the one thing I needed, a time machine. "I'll do anything," she said, voice shaking. I looked at her and felt the cruel truth rise up. Anything except having not done it. I didn't say that out loud. I didn't want to watch her die inside. I was already dying enough for both of us. Instead I said, "I need space." She nodded frantically. "Okay. Okay. Whatever you need." And then, like a punchline, there was a soft laugh through the wall. Derek. Maybe watching TV. Maybe talking on the phone. Maybe nothing. But the sound hit me like a brick. Because my nervous system didn't care why he laughed. It only knew he existed. Right there. 3 days later, I met with a lawyer during my lunch break. Sitting in that office, wood paneling, neutral art, the faint smell of printer toner, felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's life. But the lawyer said things I needed to hear. Involve the kids as little as possible. Keep communication calm and documented. Don't move money around impulsively. Think about custody arrangements. Protect yourself. Protect yourself. Like my wife was a threat. That night, I told Carly I was filing for separation. She dropped to the floor. Literally. Like her legs quit. "Nate," she sobbed. "Please. Please don't do this." I stood there in the doorway of our living room, feeling like the villain in my own story. "I didn't do this," I said quietly. "I'm responding to what you did." "I'll never talk to him again," she cried. "I believe you'll try," I said. "But I don't believe I'll ever feel safe with you again. Not here. Not with that wall. Not with him next door." She grabbed my hands like a drowning person. "I made a mistake." I pulled my hands back gently. "You made a series of choices." Her face twisted like that distinction hurt more than anything else. "I love you," she whispered. I swallowed hard. "I love the person I thought you were." That line sounded dramatic in my head. Out loud it sounded like a funeral. The next weekend, I packed a suitcase and took the kids to my brother's place across town. I told them Daddy had to stay somewhere else for a little while because Mommy and Daddy were having grown-up problems. Owen cried. Emma got quiet, the scary kind of quiet. Carly clung to them at the door like she was terrified they'd vanish. And I stood there watching her, feeling rage and pity and nostalgia and disgust all braided together. As I loaded the car, Derek's door opened. Of course it did. He stepped outside like he owned the street, looked at me with that same half-smile. I didn't even look away. I stared right back. He lifted a hand in a little, "Hey." I wanted to hit him. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to cry. Instead I did something I didn't expect. I smiled. Not because I was happy. Because I realized, he doesn't get to control my face anymore. Then I got in the car and drove away with my kids in the back seat and my life in the trunk. The separation was ugly in the quiet ways. Not screaming matches. Not broken plates. Just constant small grief. Texting Carly about school pickup while remembering she texted Derek, "Salt Run," like it was cute. Trying to keep my voice neutral for the kids while my chest felt like it was being crushed. At first, Carly swore she'd cut Derek off completely. Then, 2 weeks into separation, Emma casually said, "Mommy went next door." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What do you mean?" "She said she needed sugar," Emma said, like it was nothing. "And then she was gone for a long time." I swallowed hard. "Okay. Thanks for telling me, Em." When I dropped the kids off, I didn't confront Carly in front of them. I waited until they were inside and then I said, quietly, "Emma said you went next door." Carly's face went blank. "I didn't." I stared at her. There it was again. The lie, automatic. I almost laughed. You're still doing it, I said. Her eyes flashed with something defensive. Nate, you don't get to control where I go. I don't want to control you, I said, voice shaking. I want you to stop humiliating me. I'm not. Carly, I cut in, and my voice went cold. If you keep seeing him, I'm not considering reconciliation or taking space. I'm done. Divorce. Final. Her mouth trembled. I'm lonely. You're lonely because you destroyed your marriage, I said. Don't put that on me. She cried. I walked away. And that was the moment I accepted something I'd been resisting. Even after getting caught, she still wanted the option. She wanted me as stability and Derek as adrenaline. And maybe, if Derek had been more careful, if I hadn't checked the camera, if the wall had been thicker, she would have kept doing it. So I filed for divorce. Once that paperwork started moving, reality got sharp. We agreed on a temporary custody schedule, week on/week off, with midweek dinners. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. The hardest part was the duplex. I couldn't afford to keep paying for our place plus a new place, and Carly couldn't afford it alone. So we sold. That process was its own special kind of hell, cleaning the house together for showings, pretending we were normal homeowners while our marriage corpse was in the basement. At one showing, the realtor said, cheerful as ever, these shared wall homes are great. So quiet. I nearly laughed out loud. When we finally moved out, I stood in the empty living room one last time. No couch. No kid toys. No photos. Just that wall. I put my palm on it. It was cold. Plain. Innocent looking. And I realized how much power I'd given it. How much I'd let it become the symbol of my humiliation. So I did something small and stupid and necessary. I knocked on it. 3 taps. Then I walked away. I moved into a small rental on the other side of town, older building, thicker walls, the kind of place where you don't know your neighbors and you're grateful for it. The first week, I slept like a corpse. Exhausted beyond words. The second week, I didn't sleep at all. My brain kept replaying everything. The third week, I started therapy, because I realized my anger was turning into something poisonous. Not just anger at Carly. Anger at myself. For not noticing sooner. For being nice. For thinking routine meant loyalty. My therapist said something that stuck with me, you're trying to make sense of a decision you didn't make. That's exactly it. Cheating creates a puzzle where every piece cuts your fingers, and you keep trying to put it together because you think if you understand it, it will hurt less. But understanding doesn't undo it. All it does is make you tired. Carly and I eventually had the conversation that felt like the final nail. We met at a coffee shop to talk about the kids' school schedule. Neutral territory. She looked smaller than I remembered, like the chaos she created finally caught up and sat on her shoulders. I really am sorry, she said, quietly. I stared at my coffee. Are you still seeing him? Her eyes flicked away. That was answer enough. Just tell me, I said. She whispered, sometimes. I nodded slowly, feeling numb instead of shocked this time. Because I'd already grieved. Okay, I said. Then we're done. Completely. Don't talk to me about us again. Tears slid down her face. I hate myself. I shrugged, not cruelly, just honestly. That's not something I can fix for you. She reached across the table like she wanted my hand. I pulled mine back. And there it was, acceptance. Not peace. But acceptance. It's been long enough now that the rawness isn't constant. It comes in waves. Sometimes I'm fine for weeks. Then I'll be in Home Depot looking at tool sets and I'll remember the orange bag crossing the driveway like it belonged to Derek, and my throat will tighten. Sometimes Owen will say something like, "Remember when we lived in the twin house?" And I'll feel my stomach drop. Sometimes Emma will ask, "Why don't you and Mommy live together?" And I'll have to choose my words carefully so I don't hand her the weight of adult betrayal. Carly and Derek. Last I heard, they didn't last. Because of course they didn't. Affairs built on secrecy and thrill don't translate well into real life. Once the drama is gone, all that's left is two people who prove they can't be trusted. But here's the thing, knowing that doesn't heal me. It just confirms that I wasn't crazy. What I learned is ugly and simple. People can love you and still betray you. Love isn't a leash. It's not a guarantee. Your gut is data. Not proof, but data. If your body is telling you something is wrong, don't shame yourself for noticing. Boundaries aren't controlling. They're protective. "Don't go into our neighbor's house alone for 30 minutes" is not a ridiculous boundary in a marriage. Document reality. Camera footage, messages, timelines, because when someone is lying to you, you start doubting your own eyes. Your kids don't need details. They need stability. They need a parent who doesn't collapse under the weight of the other parent's choices. Leaving is not failure. Sometimes staying is the thing that breaks you. If you're reading this and you're in that fog, where you're hearing little things, seeing small changes, telling yourself you're paranoid, listen to me. You're not weak for wanting to trust your spouse. You're not stupid for believing the person you love wouldn't do this. But don't let that hope turn into blindness. And don't let anyone make you feel like the villain for asking questions. Because the hardest part of betrayal isn't the sex. It's the way it rewrites your reality. It makes you question your instincts, your memories, your worth. It makes you stand in your own kitchen, on your side of the wall, and wonder how you became the last person to know your own life. The wall isn't in my life anymore. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet, I still remember that laugh. And I remind myself. It didn't mean I was unlovable. It meant she was willing. And I finally stopped making her willingness my fault.